Hello, my name is Trydar, and I have a bit of a different video for you today because behind me here we are going to be updating a very old build of mine that I constructed. In fact, this was done in survival way back in 2014, and it was actually done on a survival multiplayer server where it served as the central town hall at the spawn city. And this was made for the Cube Collective server, which has long since passed away, but I still retain a copy of the spawn, so I can go back and extract some of my ancient buildings from there, because what we are going to be doing today in this video is updating the entire structure. Because I think when I built this, I had been playing for around 10 months. So I think my building skills have progressed a little bit since then, so there are some changes we can go back and make. So the first thing we will do is take a bit of a walk around, look at the exterior and the overall plan I made. You can see it's still got the original C3 Cube Collective Town Hall sign on it from a way back in the day. It also has a few street lamp designs here that were not made by me. But let's crack this open and I'll briefly show you how it works. You can see it's just got some redstone lamps, and every time the daylight sensor gets activated, it will move a redstone block and activate the 4 lights. Pretty ingenious and fairly low-tech, and I've since used them in my other builds. But anyway, let's continue looking at the town hall itself. So as you can see, the entire structure is virtually made out of entirely stone bricks and cobble and nether brick. So the first thing we need to think about doing is adding a variety more materials than we have in the past. This was also very shortly done after stained glass was first introduced. So there is some of that here, but the stained glass was sort of retrofitted into the building. So we're going to be updating these windows to a better design as well, and we may actually increase the entire height of the inner structure. Let's go around here. The back is rather messy, actually. It's only got this typical, I tried to make an apse and to make it in the Gothic style, but I didn't know how to do diagonals yet. So it looks rather messy back here. So this is something we have to address. You can also see the trees here. They're just the typical Minecraft trees. I think I grew a normal tree and then I just knocked a couple of blocks out of them and called them custom trees. We do have some small hedges and stuff on the sides here, along with some very large buttresses. I think one of the first things we're going to do is to shorten the buttresses to 2 blocks wide instead of this 3 here, and lose this cobblestone wall insert in the middle. If we go around here, we can see my very early attempt at doing tracery in the stained glass windows here. It didn't come out that great, but for 2014 it was alright, I suppose. We have a very early design for a rose window up here, which we can definitely update that. And we have more sections up here of the tower and everything as well. And we also need to put a flag up there at some point too. But you can tell this was done in survival because it is literally festooned with torches everywhere to prevent spawns. And I'm probably going to strip out most of those. One of the things I'm going to strip out completely are these pointy bits along here. That's just unnecessary ornamentation like here and there. We're going to get rid of that sort of thing. We're also going to get rid of all of the inset cobblestone features here I have in these walls. This was an early attempt of mine to try to add detail to the build. It kind of worked at the time, but I think we can do a little bit better these days. Let's go and take a look inside. So, well, let's just get rid of the doors entirely. So in here, we do have a nice floor pattern. It's mostly done to prevent spawning, but I think we can do a better pattern because since then we can just put a layer of black stained glass across the entire floor to prevent spawning in here. And I think most of the radical changes are going to be taking place on the interior in here because there are no rib vaulting details at all in this barrel vaulted ceiling, and we can definitely do something about that now. We do have the rounded apps down here at the end, which we can also fix. And we also still have the original Ender Dragon memorial back here. As you can see, it was barely slain on 1/11/2014. I think I died a couple of times because, well, you know, I'm a builder, not a fighter. And I was pretty much of no use in that fight at all. I did get to see the dragon die, but that was after I had lost everything a couple of times. But enough about that. Let's go over here because I have sliced the building in twain. And let's take a look at the overall profile. So as we can see, we have a lot of empty space up here in the roof that we can make use of. We can add some nice wood beam details up here. I did also design this to have a sort of a private office up here behind the rose window. There were also some ways to get up here, but it's got a ladder and then it transitions to stairs, which is not a great design. We have to do something about that. But there were small areas over here that got sealed off and not used, and there were further ways to get up to the main tower areas, but not any way to get up here as well. So this is the Town Hall design in complete profile. I think one of the things I definitely want to do is raise the interior height a little. But I think the first things we need to do to this building is that I'm going to go around and start knocking off all of the superfluous details around here that don't look very good, and we're going to strip the building back to its bare elements, and I think I will collapse the size of these side buttresses here to be a 2x2 instead of a 3x3. Okay, so I've spent some time stripping off the superfluous details off camera and taking the structure back to its bare bones. And in the process, we have reduced the overall length by about 5 blocks. And to compensate, we have raised the height by 4 blocks. Because for the height of the tower here, the building back here is just a little bit too long and out of proportion. So we are going to rectify that a bit, and we probably need to remodel the entire tower to make it somewhat larger and in more correct proportions as we go along, including these little side towers here. We need to do something about those. But the thing I think I want to tackle right now are these main segments here, specifically the windows. We need to do something about that and the ceiling. So I'm going to work on those. I think we are going with this design about here. And let's begin introducing some new materials in here. Actually, I think for the side pillars here, we should fill that in with some diorite. And we also need to make the arches up here diorite as well, so that can blend in with the ribbing and the vaulting that we are about to do. So I'm going to work on that off camera a little bit, and then I will come back and show you what I've come up with. Okay, so I did a little building off camera. I'm just kidding. This is a completely different world, as you well know, but I've just been dying to make that joke. Okay, so back in the real world build project, I have done what I said I would do in updating this segment here. As you can see, we have a new window design with much better tracery than was there previously. We also have variations in materials now. We're using some diorite on the inside, A fun fact, this building was built just before diorite came out. So I never was able to use it in the palette that I had for the building materials because back then things were a bit more limited. However, I've begun to install the glass floor, and underneath that we're going to be putting this pattern here, a simple repeating pattern underneath the black stained glass. And in the windows here, we're going to be putting this pattern here as well. This is what I like to do for my stained glass windows, to do this pattern here of full blocks interspaced with panes. And below those, they have panes interspaced with full blocks and so on and so forth in a repeating pattern. The cow seems to approve. But this is a detail you can use for your windows. Instead of making a straight sheet of glass, you can alternate the two types of glass, both blocks and panes. But that aside, we're going to be putting that in here in this section that I have left between the tracery, because what I've done is I have made one window tracery for the inside and an identical one here for the outside. And in between that, I have left a little void in here that we're going to be putting this into with the MC Edit. And in here, you can also hide a little bit of glowstone in the corners, both above and below down here, to help generally light up your structure. And you can see in the ceiling here, we now have a ceiling that is made of lapis, and it has rib vaulting made out of diorite. So this is, of course, just one half of a section. And it's got the main arches here made of diorite and a smaller arch here, and then the rib vaulting in the ceiling with a little feature of glowstone in there as well to help light up the ceiling of the build. Now on the outside, there is a bit of a contrast. We're going with bedrock. Basalt can also be used if you're doing this in survival, which I originally was, but I don't build in survival anymore, so bedrock it is. Now on the outside here, we have verticals of bedrock, but we have a horizontal band down here on the foundation level to help balance the entire thing out. And this is to give a contrast between the weathered and rather drab exterior that we're going to have to the more light and airy interior sections that we are going to have as well. So I think the next thing I will do is put in the under the glass floor segments here and put in the glass in the windows, and probably start redesigning the ceiling, the roof segment up here as well above the ceiling. And I'm probably just going to separate this entire section here and set that off to the side. And we will work on the middle parts, and then we will do the end segments. All right, so I've been doing some more building and designing and redesigning and redesigning. And I've come up with this here that I'll show you shortly. Let me explain what I've done. So the middle sections of the building over here are essentially modular. There are like 5 of them, and they're all the same. So I've been redesigning a subsection, just one of the 5 modules of that. And this is what I've come up with for the interior and exterior. You can see I placed the glass in the floors that I was talking about. And I've also done the roof up here as well. I placed in a nice sequence of oak beams to hold the entire roof up, which we have done in black stone and red nether brick. And I've also done the exterior detailing as well. However, after I did that, one of the things I like to do when I build is I sit and I look at it for a while and I think. And while I was thinking, some things occurred to me. One was that I needed to raise it up an additional 2 blocks. It needed to be 2 blocks taller than it previously was to get the proportions right, because I made a change in the arches. Over here, these were supposed to be circular arches in the original design, but now they are pointy Gothic arches, which means that the height needed to increase a little bit, and the proportions of the windows had to go up 2 additional blocks to compensate for the extra height. Also, what I've done in here is I've made these arches more pointy, and also these over the window here more pointy than the circular ones that were over here. And on the exterior as well, I have made some small changes by bringing the roof line down a bit more, and also adding in these dormer windows up here at the top. And if I copy and paste that 5 times, this is what the exterior looks like. Pretty good, I would say, compared to the original. It's definitely got a lot more going on out here and a lot more varied materials compared to just the straight stone bricks that it was originally. So here's what it looks like from the inside. And here is the same section I just showed you mirrored around the center line of the building. So let me walk down through the gallery here. We have our windows and our arches and everything looking pretty good, I think. And also with the shaders, the black glass floor shows up all kinds of reflections in here, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do the black glass floor, not only just for spawn considerations, but also because it looks nice. And of course, here's the entire thing in profile. Now, I think that because of the height this is at, we are not going to be needing flying buttresses on these sides here, because the height of the arch should be sufficient that there is a square underneath the arches here, which should handle the thrust forces from both the roof and the arches going out this way. I think the height of that, coupled with the thickness of the buttresses on the side here, should be sufficient to allow the building to stand. Of course, this is Minecraft. We don't really have to take those things into consideration, but I always like to do that in my building. It's just a little bit more fun. Also come to some decisions about what to do on the end. And I had originally tried to do an apse on the end, as I've said, that never really quite worked out. What we're going to do this time is leave it flat. And instead of the round part, we are going to have a really big window filling this entire archway here. And I think it will be quite dramatic and be more in keeping with the overall style of the building. Since that was essentially the only round part, it was sort of an odd way to end it out over there. So we are going to drop that feature from this rebuild. And also, one of the things we need to talk about again is the front tower. And the more I look at this, the more I think there's not going to be much I can recycle from this particular model. And I need to pretty much tear down the entire thing and redesign it to better interface with the new sections that we have built to go in behind it here. Because one of the things I want to do in this building is that I want to make the front tower a bit thicker and also a bit taller. But somewhere up here, in addition to the windows we'll be having down here, I want to put in a clock face so we can have a little clock tower. And another thing we need to do over here on the sides is that the entire tower needs to be thicker, because as you'll remember, there were a series of ladders that went up this way, and then they went up that way, and then there was finally some stairs. And that was a very bad solution to accessing the tower. I want it to be more accessible only by stairs and not by ladders. So that is a change we are going to be making with that. But I think the next thing I will be working on is to add in the flat window down here and its tracery, and cap off the roof out here at the front as well. So after that is done, we will just need to rebuild the entire tower, which will comprise pretty much the remaining part of this video. Alright, I've actually gone ahead and finished the building, and I prepared behind me a series of in-production slices that I'm going to show you and explain what I did along the way. So the first thing behind here, let me show you what I have done for the window at the back that I was talking about. We have, of course, a nice large window with tracery in it. And it is finished on the outside as well. And we have a little triangular roof end on the back here. You can see it on a completed model over there, which I will get to at the end of the video. Also, there is the new tower that I talked about. The original tower was just entirely too small, so I tore the entire thing down and have been rebuilding this one. I didn't put anything on the inside to start with. I started with the exterior here, and I pretty much made one layer of the foundation and then extended the entire thing up with MC Edit here, and then I started wrapping around these smaller details here. But you can see we have a window here. There's just another copy of one of these over here, except this one is outlined with a pointy Gothic arch. And then we have a transition series of windows. And then up here, we're going to be putting another such window. And on the front as well, we will be doing the same thing. As you can see, I've already outlined a Gothic arch here. And then there is a smaller one, which we will be using as the entranceway. So let's go on and take a look at the next iteration over here. So I put in the extra window, as you can see, another transitional layer of windows above that. And on the sides here, we'll take a look at this on the other side. It's pretty much just a copy of this section here from here is a copy of this section from down there to there. On that side anyway, not back here, because the roof interfaces with that section of the tower. And we're going to be doing that yet a third time up here on this side. However, on the front, I have installed the clock face that I was talking about, which makes this tower a clock tower. So I'll give you a good close look at this here. This is the largest circle I can fit into the available space, so that's as big as the clock face can be. And on the top, I started to build the pinnacles here on all four of the roof sections up here as well. As you can see, how I build these is I build a quarter of it, and I just rotate and copy that with MC Edit, because what I do is I put all the design work into a small section as a sort of a module, and then I can rotate and copy and paste it on the other four sections here, and then copy the entire thing for the other sections over there. As you can see, the completed examples of that right here. And we can also see that I have installed the third window up here as well, and begun construction on yet a fourth window, which will cap the entire thing off. Of course, when we get up here, they're no longer a square section. This is an octagonal section on top of that. The interior room is square, but on the outside it is octagonal. And there is also a small detail, very subtle here, right here, of a small flying buttress that connects and steadies the top of the octagon so the entire thing doesn't fall down, because it is quite fragile, being mostly windows. And those are, of course, attached to the top of the decorative roof elements on here as well. So let me move on from that and show you a bit more work I did on that, which was to add the octagonal roof section on top of that. And we can see a full completed section over here. I think one of the things I did go back and do on the final reference model was the roof pinnacles over here were too low. So I added about 4 to 3 more block sections to raise the entire height up which you can kind of see that in the distance over there. So be on the lookout for that. But of course, since this is Gothic detail, it is all very intricate and detailed, and it takes quite a while to get it right. I didn't just place down these block sections very quickly. I had to tear them down and redesign them about 3 or 4 times before everything looked correct. I have also put 4 small windows up here in the top of the octagonal roof section as well. Let me give you a good top-down view of that. The key to getting the octagonal roof sections is to draw lines that step in 2 block increments, meaning that if I go down a little, you can see that there are 2 blocks here, and then you step over a block, and then there are 2 blocks there. And then there's a further 2 blocks here, and then you hit the outside of the octagon and you stop building. So that is how those work. If you want to incorporate that into your own builds to try out an octagonal roof of your own. Well, over here, I began designing the interior of the rooms. I think the entire tower is empty at this phase over here, but I do like to have completed interiors when possible. So what I did with that was to design a modular room segment, and I copied and pasted the entire thing all the way down, and I adjusted the height of the floors 1 block down to get them to line up reasonably good with the exterior windows. And once those were done, I started detailing them out. We can see here we've got some clockwork detail behind here for the clock face. It's as good of a detail as we can get at this level. These are supposed to represent gears and the the internal workings of a clock. And we can see if let's just drop all the way down. Down here, I finished the bottom of the tower, and we have a couple of doorways here. One of these is for a corkscrew staircase that goes up through 2 sections of the tower. And this is that thing that's over here. This is a view of that outside of that. Here's a modular section of the corkscrew staircase, and when you just stack that on top of each other, you can make that as tall as you want, and it fits in a reasonably tight space inside of this section here. However, over here as well, I have integrated a ladder if you don't want to use the staircase, which goes pretty much all the way to the top like the staircase does itself. There are also some traditional stairs over here, which leads up to a small balcony overlooking the main hall here, and some small stairs over here that take you up to the first level here. And there are doors over here that lead to these ladders themselves. And at various levels, the corkscrew staircase will have exits over here as well. I didn't add those for all the rooms, though, because I didn't think it was particularly necessary. I don't think the corkscrew staircase is going to get a lot of use, even though I wanted to add it anyway, just because it's cool. Let me go up through the tower and give you a various view of all the many room patterns in here. As you can see, I've had to adjust all the windows manually to compensate for the exterior details. And we have the top room here with another ladder that will take you all the way to the top up here to some even smaller rooms in the attic over here. And up here will be the highest point that you can reach, which is pretty much at the level, the midpoint of the level of the roof up here. And I think if you wanted to get out on the roof, you could break one of the windows and then do some parkour around here as well. And there are some other details here that I've added. One of them is a balcony at this level here, which I think would, which I think would serve as an elytra landing area if you're good enough to land here. And it's also at the level of the clock face, by the way. And below that, there are also some other doors. There's a small balcony here for you to have roof access in case you need to get out on the roof for some reason. There is also some more access ways in the attic here for this doorway at this level. There's the ladder over there. You can get out into the main attic area here. And there are some walkways to let you traverse the attic space if you wanted to use this area for something. There are also some small doors here to get out there. And there is even another small access ladder here at the very top of the attic space along here. Another small walkway with its access ladder over here. So as you can see, I've made a lot of little nooks and crannies inside of this particular town hall, because that's something I think every good Minecraft build needs, a couple of random little hidden nooks and crannies, especially one that is Gothic themed, because it just suits the style extremely well. Now over here in the distance, we can see the final model, both of its sides mirrored and put together with a big white, blue, and black flag waving in the breeze up there. And out front here, they are clearly labeled as the original 2014 Town Hall and the 2020 rebuild. So I think you can see in the last 6 years, my building skills have improved a little bit over the original. The original still looks okay, I think. But I wanted to sort of come back and revisit the entire project and update the entire model. It's just sort of some unfinished business I had lying around, and I wanted to go ahead and take care of that. And I hope you have enjoyed me bringing you along on the entire rebuild process. Hopefully you have learned a thing or two here in the building process that you can use in your own building projects in your own worlds. And there is one last thing I have added. Because this is now a clock tower, we need to have a clock chime. So to that end, I have taken this out of my Norath world here. And as you can see, it is activated by a pressure plate here. And I have put said pressure plate right here, which when stepped on, yes, the clock itself, as you can see, has well and truly struck 3 o'clock. So every time you walk into the town hall, we can have the clock strike, and we have the original sign here, slightly updated. And on the inside here, we have the entrance vestibule with a small chandelier hanging down from the roof there. And moving inside, we of course have our completed Gothic space in here, all suitably done, with a slightly updated Ender Dragon memorial down here as well. So this concludes the Town Hall update video. I hope you enjoyed seeing the building process and how I think about and design and redesign my structures, and have hopefully learned something in the process that you can apply to your own building. And also, of course, both of the structures behind me here will be available for download in the video description if you want to come here and take a look at both of them for yourself. And at some point, I will probably do a tutorial on the newer Gothic Town Hall there, but it's going to be a while before I can fit that into my schedule. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.